All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what the docket has to say here. Let's go ahead and start off with the discussion den topic. Cus, do you want to outline kind of what you were thinking when you put your stuff in there?
Yeah, and I'll also tell you guys where I'm coming from. I'm not against having the discussion den. I'm not set on removing it. I am asking whether or not it's doing more harm than good. And the only way for us to know that, aside from our own observations, is to ask the community. We are here as staff to make this a safe place to play games and share Christian fellowship. So, as our motto goes, Christians first, gamers second. Is the discussion den serving that end, or is it detracting from it? Excuse me.
Anybody want to speak? And by the way, since we haven't mentioned it, we have a little disclaimer. If you would like your opinion shared, but you don't want to share it, you can message any of the leaders or council members, and they'll get out your opinion for you. I think there's a lot of different levels to this, and so I think Cuss is asking in general, is it doing more harm than good? And then you'll notice that she's posted a lot of separate questions to sort of kind of focus in on the subject. No opinions on this whatsoever?
I have. My question would be to everybody that uses it, is it beneficial even if you're right in who you're arguing with, or it usually ends up, my wife's yelling at our cat, does it end up making you stumble even though you're trying to make the correct post, So if you get just hell-bent on doing what you want, to get your point across, even though you're right, are you hurting yourself in the process? And I see, quite a bit of that in there. If you go back through and read, scan back through it, at times it just gets out of hand.
I think just to zero in a little bit here, I don't think the discussion den per se is the problem. I think a lot of our problems lately have been particular types of discussion. I think there is, the word is thrown around a lot lately, but I think there's a level of toxicity that once you pass that level, all bets are off about people listening to you, about you bringing them around to your side. The problem is too many people would use the discussion den for debates where I've seen some excellent religious conversation and Bible questions and things like that. So I don't think the channel itself is the problem. I think it's what we're taking in there.
Yeah, the channel in concept is great. The problem is nobody's perfect, and it gets heated, or somebody's opinion, and they want to push it, and then it slowly goes down the drain hole. Everything becomes a giant whirlpool, and that's my biggest thing with it, because we've seen it. Neil, we've been around here longer than anyone, and we've seen it on the forums before. I've done it, arguing with people, trying to get my point across. That's why I don't go in there and say much, because I'm not going to take the time to just end up making somebody mad or making myself look like a goof, which is easily done. So, but we've all, we've done it on the forums. We've done it to each other in the council section, doing it. So, it easily gets out of hand when it's in text. It's hard enough to have a civil conversation at times when you're debating face to face, but when it gets on text, and then you get, I'm behind a keyboard, I can say whatever I want, or maybe what I was typing doesn't come across as how I wanted it, or I meant it one way, and Neil took it the other way and hurt his feelings. So I just think it's a train wreck at times, but it does have good times too, and a lot of good information is put in there. But I don't know how you would police it or keep it. There's no way to tell who would get permission in the channel. We couldn't, figure out somebody's thinking before we let them in there. It's impossible.
I think going with what Global is saying, and I think Kessa brought something like this up. Should we maybe make the requirements for the debater role just a little bit more involved, as opposed to just getting a DM from the bot and responding to it? Any opinions on that?
I have thought that we're that we're lax in just handing it out. At times I think, well, why even have a permission if anybody who asks for it gets it? But at the same time, I see the need. I'm not saying take away the permission at all. I guess I don't know how to draw that line. Do we give it, you can't go in there for a month, or you have to be in voice pro? I mean, where do we draw that line, I think, is where the question is, which is why I've never really brought it up.
That's a good question, because we used to not give out tags real quick either. It would take sometimes 6 months to become a tag member in the group, and that's when we had we hosted our own servers and game servers and stuff, and it took a while to make sure it was a fit both ways. So I have no idea how we would even break it down, but how do you do it now? Because I really don't pay attention to who gets in it or how quickly. I just kind of skim over the posts, and usually somebody's stopped the drama before I get there. So what's our line of attack now, Neo or Kesha, to let someone in there?
Well, I feel like before I get into that, I'll just touch on the Regulus situation. I do apologize to the people who put up with her for so long. I take some responsibility, not for her behavior, but when I see someone making our safe regular server members uncomfortable, I need to act a little more quickly, and I will try to do that in the future. So I appreciate everybody who was patient. I think there's 2 reasons that people have been, so to speak, sent to the discussion den. I've done it for the wrong reason, which is they were being discourteous. I should just deal with that in whatever channel it happens. Discussion den was never meant to be a garbage bin for things I didn't want to see. So I do apologize for that. The other reason is that it's a serious topic. Maybe it's a little bit inflammatory, and we want it to be tightly modded. And I think a lot of those topics are worth discussing. I kind of lost my train of thought, but yeah, my question is, are people benefiting from it? Are there people here who have enjoyed the den, who feel like it's edifying them? Or is it just another drain on our volunteer capacity, which is not unlimited? We all have things to deal with in real life, and the discussion den for me is really difficult to mod. It's exhausting. So.
If I may, I feel like the discussion den is good for discussing different parts of the Bible where someone may not have a clear picture of what it means, and so they can ask for help and get some clarification there. Like Dr. Cecil said, it's not a debate den, it's a discussion den. And maybe that's where people are confused about the purpose of it. I feel like it's just a good place to discuss, what the Bible actually says.
AJ, kind of going off of that. This actually took place when it was being formed as a channel, where we were trying to decide, was it specifically on topics having to do with the Bible, or would it be more for debate or whatever? and that has kind of fluidly changed a little bit since it was brought up. I was originally staunchly against the channel, and for the reason of that at the time, I think the person who wanted it most wanted to use it as a soapbox and wanted it to be a safe place for debate and a safe place for posting all the links to all the newspaper articles that they get their ideology from, that sort of thing. And it's kind of shown that it's better when used for religious purposes or for Christian purposes as opposed to debate. So I can see why you want to kind of form it that direction. But again, it started off, somebody was like, oh, hey, is this religious? And then another person was like, well, no, it's for debate. And now it's kind of the opposite. So
yeah, it's not really, well, some of the topics are. AJ, I think you're right, though. I mean, that part of it is great. The problem is the other things that come up in it. And I don't know, unless we could just lock it down and, keep it to that type of topic, which can still get off the rails if you've got somebody in there pushing, a weird doctrine or false doctrine or, just some crazy, Church of the Spaghetti Monster or whatever. So
honestly, one suggestion I might have is that we kind of get sort of like what AJ was just saying, kind of specifically drill down to exactly what the den is for. And maybe we should make a separate channel that has very heavy warnings and very heavy modding, and it's literally, call it the kitchen or something, and warn people when you come into this channel, people are allowed to say anything they want in here, and so on and so forth, and blah blah blah. Just a suggestion.
Who actually moderates the den? I mean, I know we all have a look at it, but there's times where, like, I know Kesh gets upset, and it's like a total, somebody banging their head against the wall. And that's the other thing that comes up, is it's not fair. It can actually make you not want to be around here or deal with people. And I think Tiker's down at the bottom of the channel, but, he originally, him and his nephew, and started this whole deal. And, he knows what I'm talking about. So does Neo. That there's just times when it's just overwhelming, and it becomes, why would we even have this here? So, so the people that would have to mod it or want to mod it, you have to trust, one, that, they're on the same page and get a decent foundation under them for what's going on. And then two, you got to find somebody that wants to do that isn't just going to burn out when it, goes off the rails. So it's a tough channel to actually moderate, I think, unless you just are into debating. And I'm pretty sure, I can't speak for all the leadership around here, but I'm pretty sure most of them, if they don't have to debate, it's a good day.
Yeah. Kesef, you're first.
Sorry, catching up on the notes. I think Cecil hit the nail on the head, and AJ, it's called the discussion den, not the debate den. It's supposed to be a place, and was originally intended to be a place where we talked about what God is doing in our lives and learning about the Bible and how that applies to real world situations, which means the topic range is not really limited. Everything is relevant, right? Work, even politics, as long as it's respectful. And so not to shoot down Neo's idea, but I think we should stick with the one channel and maybe step back a bit from the debates, steer it toward the spirit of discussion. Maybe we should also change the debater role to discusser role or something like that, just in that spirit.
Is there an age restriction for the channel?
There is not.
So what would be our youngest? I'm assuming we have people under 18 that use that channel.
You didn't have anything, Doctor? Oh, okay. I thought you were raising your hand, Doctor.
Well, yeah, I know we don't ask them. Well, I mean, I know there's young people using it, but that's the other. I don't know. We used to have a lot of young kids around here, back when we had the Counter-Strike servers. So I would have, back then, I would have never been comfortable with having that type of channel with access. They would have to be at a certain age to get in there. That also doesn't make, there's plenty of younger people around here that are very mature too. So, and plenty of older ones that aren't so mature sometimes. And I fall in that category. So.
Contempt's got a good point. If it's only biblical, there's really no need to have all the strict moderation.
Yeah, but then if you get somebody coming in here going off the rails on, say they're pushing Catholic doctrine or whatever, instead of fundamental Bible, then there becomes a whole debate in itself. I mean, we've seen that blow up on the forums a ton back, many times. So,
Would that be that far different than if they started talking about it in the lounge, though?
oh no! I'm just saying them type of discussions just go off the rails. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, I've been a complete idiot defending. I mean, I'm not proud of it. I wish we could have some of the old posts off the old website because there was some really good stuff. But when I look back on some of the stuff that I wrote, and defending, and it wasn't that I was wrong, but it was the way I was going in my approach of just total, kicking them in the face. So I wasn't real proud of the way after looking back at it. So.
So back to Kess's original question. Do people think that the discussion den in general is still a good idea to have? That's the first thing we need to decide.
Yes.
In general, we should keep it.
I think it's an absolutely necessary outlet. I don't think you can go without it unless you want those discussions to happen everywhere else.
I tend to agree with that, yes.
Well, that's a valid point.
What I'm hearing is that, yeah, we think the discussion den is still valid, but we may need to change the ideas that get put in there and kind of what's allowed and what's not allowed, so to speak, to kind of dim it down a bit.
Or I don't think we should change the channel. I think what we need to do is we need to change how much you have to do in order to get the role, because in my opinion, 90% of the people that have been in the channel have behaved themselves. If you take out the people who go a little too far, you'll notice one thing that when you get the role from Fishsticks said, if you cannot stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And people keep coming into the channel who cannot stand the heat, if that makes any sense. We shouldn't put limits on the channel. We should put limits on people, I think.
That brings it back to, how do we do that?
I think you just have to be just a little bit more circumspect about who gets the role, because just having the bot send you something that you don't really have to read except for the last sentence to agree to it.
What about den moderators? Instead of the leadership, but we find 2 or 3 people that use it all the time and enjoy it, that could be trusted as moderators. And because I know it's tiring out a few people. They don't even want to look at it. But
yeah,
when things start going off the rails, and that does become an issue.
I see what you're trying to do here, Doctor. Yes, first question, I think debates should be allowed. Everybody, Doctor's asking first question, continue allowing debates, yes or no? Make your feelings heard. And I appreciate that, Doctor. You sometimes have a way of cutting through things a little quicker than some of us. Yeah, I think what Doctor's trying to do here is we're trying to set the minimum. And once we've set the minimum, then we start getting specific about what's allowed and what's not. Because I saw a discussion a few guys had the other day, and they were using a lot of big words and being very respectful of each other, and I thought it was a breath of fresh air. That's what the channel's for.
Was that the Sabbath discussion?
Oh gosh, I'd have to look.
That was an interesting one.
Yeah, I was going by my somewhat foggy memory of the situation. I'd have to go look though.
No need, just curious.
But when you guys start talking about like things that you don't, what you're invested in, but you're not invested in such a way that it really, 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 really angers you to no end. Most people can tell when they're getting angry about something, and that's when you say, okay, I need to step back, you know. When people aren't able to do that, that's when mods step in. The problem with that lately is we've had some folks who obviously wouldn't even go to the discussion den before they would talk about things that anger them. So that's part of it, is you have to tell yourself, hey, is this a topic that makes me angry?
Well, just remember that the original premise and like idea for the discussion then was to provide a place for debate and discussion. We never really talked about exactly what the purpose was for the content inside it, but it was kind of just the contextual belief that we were going to allow more than just biblical discussion in there. And so I'm pretty much with Neil on this one, is that like while we may wish to moderate certain degrees of content, we should not limit it to just specifically biblical content. We should be vetting more of who is discussing in there rather than what is discussing, if that makes sense.
When you guys are voting, make sure you're voting for the correct one. I just noticed it was a different number than up above. Fish Sticks does not always put the numbers in the correct order. Yeah.
Oh, the numbers are switched? Can you change?
Yeah.
Thanks for pointing that out, AJ. Well, we have a ridiculously good turnout tonight. First, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for showing up. And secondly, for putting your thoughts in on this. Thank you, Doctor, again for that. I also want to step back for just a brief second and thank the Doctor, Rob Zor, a couple of other people, Silverhood, who step in sometimes. They're mods, and it's part of what they do, but they don't have to do it. They're volunteers, just like everyone else around here. I want to thank you guys for keeping your eye on things lately. Great job. They get pool passes to the pool.
What if I can't swim?
And then it's like a rock.
Yeah. I like rocks though, so it's okay.
I had a pet one once.
I have lots of pet rocks.
Cool.
I threw all mine away. Get it?
For the record, the joke is that ball pythons are pet rocks. So that's why it's funny to me.
I had a pet cactus, but I never pet him.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest it.
Give him a hug.
So now that we've arrived at having concluded that we are allowing debates, what's next on the docket?
Well, actually, I think, Doctor, were you gonna continue to go down the list of questions for it? I think that's why he's typing. Give Doctor just a second. I think his way of cutting through this was a pretty reasonable way. Well, I'll tell you what. While Doctor is looking at the list and kind of doing the question, I just want to ask everybody: do you have any open meeting business besides the discussion den that you need to throw out and you want people's attention, just so we're not focusing on one thing to the exclusion of all else? Anybody got anything else they want to bring in before we continue?
Yeah, hey, so it's Big Jockey. So I think that we should be hyper vigilant to the increase of folks that may be stressed about this whole pandemic thing going on. I think we should definitely, keep things cool, calm, and collective. And if things get out of hand or get escalated quickly, maybe pull the discussion down to the den or something. Yes, no?
Yeah, that's kind of where we're going as far as like we're looking at the discussion den partially because we've been asking so many people to go into it with their subjects, like, but also I kind of going with what Ping Jockey's saying, guys. At a time like this, I'm trying to say this big picture. Older people have faced their mortality before. Maybe they've been in a car wreck. Maybe they've had a heart attack. Maybe something has happened and they've faced their mortality. Younger people a lot of times haven't. And things like current events are making everybody think about their mortality a little more. That is not an excuse for you to go, hey, let's, get angry and have a fight. You still need to keep your blood down, and you still need to be nice, and you still need to be considerate. Just because things in the world are easily upsetting doesn't mean we need to let our restraint go. So,
why is everyone hoarding toilet paper?
I don't know. Because they're mad crazy.
They've seen too many zombie movies and TV shows. They're worried about what they're going to run out of. Honestly, I read an article that said that people do stuff like that because they have not been given clear instructions, so they're left to their own devices, and they're thinking, well, the one thing we have that society didn't have, like, way back in the day, was a way to take care of that problem. So we better have plenty of that.
We don't have church for the next 3 weeks, so it's like, this is going to be interesting. Because in Minnesota, they're starting to shut everything down. We haven't shut down as a state yet. Like, I'm still going back and forth to work. People are going home sick, but it's like, I hope I don't get that crap. But I still think it's like the media likes to over-exaggerate a lot of stuff. But it's bad, but it's not as bad, it seems like.
If I can stop you there, our meeting is absolutely positively not about the virus. We're talking about, as a matter of fact, we're talking about our discussion den channel where that has been coming up more often than not. So, no offense at all, but we need to get back on track and get the meeting over with. So,
unless Doctor is ready, I'd like to move to another topic. One that had been brought up by Kessa was membership application process.
Yep.
Okay, well, Doctor does have a second question, but he got rid of it. So,
we can move on to Doctor. I'm just trying to keep the meeting going. That's all.
Well, Kessa, was that meant to be like a closed thing or an open thing?
I leave that to staff. This concerns the membership too. I think it's a good idea to move the entire process onto Discord, so we don't have to keep checking the forums or make them work with the website.
We already talked about that.
Yeah. So
There are those of us who don't know what the answer was. So if it's been talked about, maybe we can share it with everybody. Sorry if that sounds
membership
facetious. But
application process had been talked about, let's see, 3-4 meetings ago. I discussed that I was going to move the membership application process directly into Fish Sticks.
And that's in
that's sorry.
That is in Discord. And that information will be shipped off to an online spot where you can see and view all the logs and everything if need be.
essentially those guys. This is in process, right?
Yes. It's not finite, it's not in concrete. But that's the general gist.
so Fish Sticks will be handling applications once that
This
is
will be handling apps. Yeah.
okay.
Now, is there going to be any email component as far as like, is it going to email anybody out or anything like that with the application?
That could be.
One reason I ask is because we like a hard copy, if you will, outside of Discord, but also
Well, that's what I said about the online component. That was going to ship it off to a log.
I've edited a little bit, but Global used to send out like a welcome email that told everybody like where all of our assets were and who to talk to for various questions they might have. And I want to be sure that people still get that that text somehow when they apply. So
Oh, yeah, of course, totally.
okay, just checking.
Like I said, this is not in concrete. It's still very fluid. But we had arrived that Fish Sticks is going to be handling apps in the future. That way, we don't have to like have 2 different accounts of Discord, forums, /website, whatever, and then have to navigate between all 3 of them. Fish Sticks is just going to handle majority of that stuff.
Right. As part of that, folks, what you need to understand is that our website and our forums used to be like the hub of our community, and then TeamSpeak used to be kind of it grew into the hub of our community slowly but surely. Now that we moved to Discord, it's taken a lot of the hub off of all of our other assets. So our website has become a little bit more informational, a little bit more like a resource, and a lot less, hey, this is where you do stuff. So the more stuff we can onboard onto Discord and the less stuff we can put on the website, the better. The website is a great tool to say, hey, this is who we are, here's how to find us, etc. What was your question, Global? I'm sorry.
So I'm all for getting rid of the website as far as for the apps and everything. My question is when Sky Ranger is not around and no one to work on Fish Sticks, or say he gets busy or whatever, will the apps be completely tied into Fish Sticks, or will be a separate entity that, say, Sky Ranger, I don't know, finds him a lady friend, gets married, and moves off to start his life, and now we're stuck with a broken application system? Do we have a backup?
The ideal solution is that when I finish it, it's completely automated so that you won't have to mess with it. But in the event that you do something such as you change the web server, some port changes, whatever, then I'll have to have at some point delegated somebody else to help work on Fish Sticks. And there's already a few here in the community that I'd be willing to work with to help get that sorted out.
Yeah, I'm just like, because we've run into the past where we've had, server guys that, when they were gone, or we were just
got a life.
completely dependent on them when something broke. So that would be my question.
Yeah, my desire is not to hinge everything that Fish Sticks does totally on me. Majority of everything that Fish Sticks currently does, I have no interaction with. Believe it or not. Like, I don't have to manually go in and say, oh, yeah, approve this or deny this or whatever. Everything that Fish Sticks does is handled automatically. And the only time that he would break is if something that is outside of Fish Sticks' influence would change. So say if he would have to tie into his account on the website and something happened to how accounts are handled, then I would have to go in and program him or reprogram him to change to adapt to that change. So if Neo adds a new plugin or something to the website that activates 2-factor auth or something, then I would have to go in and change that. But if as long as nothing like that happens, then you'll be fine. But
yeah,
it's a perfectly valid concern, and I have thought about it previously on more than one occasion.
Yeah, I mean, over the years we've run into this issue where certain people or one person just was able to do one thing, and then when that person's time constraints, then boom, here we are, just floundering. So, but the website, I would love to get rid of. I think it's a waste of time now. There's just use an informational type thing. Neo's set up, but as far as the usage of the forums, that's dead in the water.
Sorry, if you guys are getting a lot of wind, it's because I'm sitting on a porch.
Nice.
It's no louder than the keyboard.
People have problems with the keyboard already.
Well, discussions of Fishstick's future maintenance might be something for a later date.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure we wasn't, putting ourselves out on a limb, and then when the limb breaks, we got nothing to fix it with.
Oh yeah, I'm planning to ditch you guys.
No, you're not planning, but we've had it happen many times before. People get busy, and you just don't have the time to do this. So.
Do we want to move back to discussion?
Yeah, Doctor, you had your second one?
Next question, Doc, I'll just, yeah.
I can
Haha.
copy and paste over.
Okay. Yeah, I can too, Sky, if it's, or Doctor, whoever said that, I wasn't looking. I can't tell you two apart. Been here a year and a half, and I can't tell you two apart yet.
You've been here a year and a half?
Almost.
So, what's the
Year and 3 months.
process? I'm sorry. So, what's the process for becoming a moderator?
You need my PayPal and small donation. Just kidding.
You have to announce the check is in the mail.
No, you just got to prove yourself reliable, solid. We all make mistakes, so it's not, but I mean, what'd you have in mind?
I mean, if you need somebody to swing the band hammer.
Oh, yeah, that's fun. I especially like to do that myself.
Java, no worries on that. You are a user of this server. You can vote. If you're in this meeting, you can vote. We would like to hear from everyone who has an opinion. Except maybe, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's one of those real weird bugs I need to fix. Pretty soon here in a minute, you guys are going to start hearing the crickets getting louder.
Alrighty, so that's a no. I think Doctor's probably typing out the next question. And here comes the poll.
This time they're switched.
Oh, they're switched. They're switched.
Yeah, when you guys are voting, just pay attention to the numbers.
You just gotta watch it real close.
Honestly, Casa, in my particular opinion, yes.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a good rule of thumb.
All right, it's very safe to say that that is a yes. I will come up with a follow-up question to that here in a second, but I'm going to go ahead and throw the next up in the meantime.
If we have heavier regulation, do we need to be more strict in the den?
Well, see, that's the point. I think it's the opposite. I think we need to be more strict outside the den, less strict inside the den, because what should be controlling the den is your entry into it. If the entry is harder,
Yes.
we can trust you better.
Yeah, make sure that, you ain't been around here just a day and you get into the den.
Yeah, if you get into it in lounge, people are going to come down on you. Period. Lounge is not, that's not the place. But if you come into it in discussion, it's gonna become, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen, because you're gonna know when you get in there. It's not gonna be a message from the bot that you just say yes to. It's gonna be a little more stringent than that.
Now,
You get offended if you get offended in the den when we change it. You're going to be responsible for being offended, not somebody offending you. That's what I'm hoping that we're going.
Now, I know when I became a debater, I agreed to certain conditions that Fishsticks laid out, but I am not familiar with what the regulations currently are on what can and can't be said in the discussion den, so I don't feel well informed enough to answer this question.
And that's something we can probably collaborate on to revise those rules if need be.
I think if you're mature and common sense, the rules should be pretty self-explanatory.
What? No, of course none of the members are trustable in there. I wouldn't trust myself in there.
No, but I mean, a good rule of thumb would be maturity and just, but like I said, there's times when we all go off the rails.
I think what we're going for, Houdini, is if you're a member, you're held to a higher standard than a non-member.
Oh, a
Okay,
member plus
so-
role.
Oh gosh.
Member plus role, yeah, that means 2 layers of. You got to get through this before you can be a schmuck.
So you have to be a member to get in. So what we're proposing is you have to be a member to get in and go through another hoop. You can't just get into debate without being a member.
Right. You have to be a member first, and then you have to get the role. Do you get the role just simply messaging the bot? Probably not. Maybe we'll set up an application or something. I don't know, but the amount of
You have to
stringency.
be in order to actually use the discussion then.
Yeah, but you have to be a member first before you can get any
An
further.
actual tagged member? Is that what you're
An
getting at?
actual tag member, yes, sir. You have to have applied and become a member of the CC.
Well, what if somebody doesn't want to become a member but just hangs out here? And
Then they can't get in there. I think. I mean, no offense to them, but I think that's.
so
It should
like,
be visible. Maybe it should be visible to them, but they shouldn't be able to respond.
And that can be done pretty easily.
I mean, ladies and gentlemen, anybody, you don't have to leave all this discussion to just members. If you have a thought on anything we say at any time, please let us know.
I'm throwing up another poll with what was just talked about.
He adapts quickly.
Okay.
That's a good point, Ben. Good point. Sorry,
Numbers are in a
everyone.
funky order. Just so you guys know, numbers are in a funky order.
Well, That does beg the question, like how stringent the application itself would be. Most people have already filled out an application to be a member. Any application that should be involved with discussion den should be like really, really short, like maybe 2 questions. So it's not like a huge problem. But at the same time, it shouldn't be as easy as, hey, let me have this roll, fish sticks. Okay.
Well, why not just put it in the member application when they sign up for it? If it's something they would want to participate in, just add a couple more questions. I don't know what those questions would be.
That's a good point, too. Good question. Do you want to
Java-
be... Go ahead, Silver, I'm sorry.
Java Girl's confused. I'm wanting to help clarify.
Confused as in how?
I don't know. What are you confused by, Java Girl?
Okay.
At the current moment, yes, people have to go through a very easy process in order to get into the discussion den. What we're discussing right now is making it harder to get into the discussion den and how we are going about doing that. The proposal right now is that you have to be a member before you can get into the discussion den. And then we're talking about, okay, is that the discussion, or is that what we're doing, or are we making it a separate role or something like that? Does that make more sense, Travagil? So what we're proposing is one of 3 things. A, keeping it how it is right now. We just won't give out the access. What is a member? There we go. So a member, hold on. Can someone else explain that? Sorry. My attention's getting called away.
Basically, members are people that, went through the application process and said, I want to be part of this group, and what they stand for. I mean, I would say that it's also like we stand with our beliefs, but there's technically ACC, which is, you don't necessarily have to be Christian.
It's somebody who's been a little more thoroughly vetted than just landing in the crash pad and saying, okay, you're good enough to talk to people in here.
Thank you, Sky.
Well, that's always fun.
You also get a few little chips on your belt because your name changes to a different color.
Yeah.
And also keep in mind that's our current application. We are talking about changing it over to Discord only.
Yeah. And to be honest, depending on the outcome of wherever that poll went, I'm on mobile, so it's kind of hard to see things. But depending on how this works out, if there is a second application, that would be a test run for however Fishsticks would handle member applications in the future.
Say that again, Sky.
Was the wind getting in the way?
A little bit.
So, if you guys opted for the separate application, in order to gain access to the discussion den, I would treat that as the test run for how Fishsticks would handle member applications in the future. So, is to talk in the discussion den, we run that, see how well it works, et cetera, see what needs to be fixed, and then the same ideology, once we iron it all out, would be applied to how Fishsticks would handle member applications in the future. That's just a maybe. It depends on if you guys want a separate application or not. Because if you just say it's members only or whatever, then it doesn't make a difference.
It does seem like the members only stipulation does not prevent problematic individuals from winding up in the den.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of trying to get at earlier. That's why I think it should be a separate thing.
I.e., like, have you
So-
had any staff infractions in the last 3 months?
The problem with tacking on additional questions to the initial application to get in is that if someone later decides they want to get in, do they have to go through the entire process again?
I don't
Yeah.
think we discussed going through the entire like application process in terms of being a member. What was it, Neo, that said that it should be like 2, maybe 3 questions?
Right. So if
I-
that's part of the member application form, that would make it annoying for someone who was already a member to gain the debater role.
Yeah, so there would be like different questions.
Okay.
Okay,
So
as long as there's a system in place for that.
the poll is currently sitting at 6 and 5 and 1. Or no, 2. 6 and 5 and 2. With just a separate application being in the lead, 2 hoops
what poll are you
being
looking
in
at?
second, and only a member in last. Bear in mind that that poll had the options switched around, so it went 3, 2, 1. If anyone would like to make sure that they have theirs on their correct one.
What poll is this?
Do you want to run it one more time?
Yeah, I probably should. Okay.
And maybe just a suggestion to pause on the text discussion until we can get this poll figured out. When you guys vote, make sure you're paying attention to what number you're clicking, because Fishsticks tends to do them in funky orders.
Well, here's a crazy idea. What if we had a vouching system for debaters like we do for entering the server to begin with?
No, not more staff involvement.
Well, I mean, it could just be
Okay.
if you're already a debater.
I think that would probably fall under a separate application type of deal.
Yeah.
Honestly, if the separate application, at that point, I would just wipe everybody's debater role status.
And start over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, AJ. While I agree with what you just said and the spirit of it, the whole point of the application and the debater, the whole point that we're doing this is so if you are allowed inside the new discussion den and somebody says something that angers you, you have enough self-policing to just back away. In other words, let's let this be less about, hey, somebody's gone too far, and more about be an adult, and if somebody goes too far, just walk away. Does that make sense? I don't want to. When we start policing the topic, that's when we start getting into the trouble that we had in the first. What we need to do is police the people, not the topic.
Okay, so bear in mind that we are in 3-1-2 order for this poll, guys.
AJ.
Always going against the flow.
The topic is already set on not being police. We've set that one. That's already been answered. Wow. Okay, so it's just a separate application, is what the vast majority of people are saying at this point. Okay.
Mr. Run, here I come.
So just a separate. Do we want to try to figure out what that application will look like tonight, or have that be thrown around by staff?
Personally, I would like to have that thrown around by staff. It would give me a little more time to get the actual process put into play.
Yeah. All right.
So let's move that to.
Oh.
Yeah, never mind. I'm not going to finish that sentence.
Okay. So that's the heavier regulations. I only have one question left, but it actually might be better to have for just moderators, because it's specifically
Yeah,
talking about mods. So because
I
it's
agree.
a matter, yeah, separate role for policing the den. I think that we should. I'll throw that one into mod chat later. And us mods can figure that out on our own. Are there any other questions that we feel that need to be asked?
Anyone at all?
May I paraphrase for people and make sure I understand what kind of got decided?
Absolutely.
By all means.
So my understanding is that the discussion den will remain as is. We will allow debates as they happen. However, we are going to be having a heavier regulation on who can be in there. And we are going to do that by having a separate application, vouching, some sort of process that will be discussed by staff members either later today or at a different date. So when this is all said and done, everybody with the discussion role, debater role, will get wiped when Sky has the chance to do that. And it will be rehanded out to those that staff deems able to handle themselves in there. As far as regulation within the discussion den, it will be about the same. We're just going to be tougher on who gets to be in there.
That sums it up.
And I'm gonna send out an announcement once all that mess is ready. So
Okay.
So will the council members be drawing up what the application questions or process looks like within the period between the next meeting, presumably?
maybe, maybe not.
Just curious if we get a chance to look at those before that got implemented.
I think that staff should definitely be the ones that at least come up with the initial set of rules. Maybe run them by the community, see if there's any changes that people want. But that's me. I'm not council.
Yeah, we're basically saying if you want to be, I think the word is vehement. If you want to be vehement about a topic, take it to the discussion den. Period. Once we're in there and we've done this new application process and stuff, you can talk about anything because everybody that's in there is expected to try and keep a little decorum. If you prove to be 100% toxic all the time in the discussion den and you take advantage of it, then we'll revisit policing people more thoroughly. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I think this is most of the people who are in there are reasonable people. Later on, though, I'm like, if somebody gets in there and they just constantly anger everyone, we might have to look at it again.
Okay, so you were gonna respond to Rajira and AJ?
Oh yeah, if I have the floor.
I say you do, so yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Thank
stealing
you.
that from Neil.
Thank you, Neil. AJ and Roger, you're both correct. We go through cycles of getting tired of people and snapping a little too quickly. Well, I do. Okay, speaking for myself. After I've handled 2 or 3 problem people in a week, I'm ready to ban the next person who just is a little abrasive in memes. So I try to take a step back, breathe, and be a little more patient with the next person. And that is what happened with Regulus. And we kind of need the support of the community to step in and say, that's enough. I am learning as I go along. If there's a behavior that's making me and other reasonable people uncomfortable, it needs to stop. And I mean, there was a case where I know of at least one incident that went on for 2 years. Someone making multiple people uncomfortable, essentially driving them off the server. Nobody said anything because they didn't want to get this person in trouble. We finally put a stop to that. I learned. So I've been taking care of problems faster. Sometimes it's not clear until it's all over at what point the person stepped from having a bad day to becoming a problem on the server. So yeah, I will be trying to step up on that outside of the den and just enforce courteous behavior. And that means I'm going to have to be mean at times. And yeah, I'm sorry. That's not my preference. I don't think anybody on this staff wants to go out there and be mean to people, but sometimes it's necessary to put a foot down.
I think we'll still kind of police people who are obviously having a bad day versus not. But again, if you've made it into the discussion den and you've got the role and you're doing your thing, you have to understand that everything you do in there is going to be watched, and everything you do in there is going to be on your record, so to speak, because you went to the trouble to get the role in the first place. Alrighty, I'm gonna take a break from this topic just for a second. Anybody have any more open meeting business you want to have discussed or talked about tonight before we get any more Banhammer?
I did actually think of one question that might be.
Don't we have a docket to look at?
Go for it, Doctor. What you got?
Okay. It might. I want to run this by real quick. Do we want to discuss a possibility of a time on the server requirement before you get into the den? Or do we want to leave that all up to council as well?
I don't think that's an unreasonable thought.
So
we used to call that time on the pond.
That's getting into the specifics of how we want to regulate people going in. So I don't know if we want to discuss that right now. But it seems like it might be worthwhile for this particular meeting.
Yeah. I second what Silver just said. We try to come across as if we're like this horrible monster, but we're not trying to run things like that. So
we're not out to hurt people. We're not out to ban anybody who disagrees with us. We want to have an open community. So sorry if it comes off like we're being really mean. But we don't really have a set rule, Javagal, of 3 strikes and you're out sort of thing, because sometimes it's a really, really, really big strike, and sometimes it's like, yeah, you're just having a couple of really bad days. You've been sick for 3 weeks, and that kind of thing. So we try to take each situation as it's handed to us.
Where I have to say that there has never been a time where Global and myself have ever sat in a channel and said, "Hey, Chloe, what are we doing today?" "Oh, Neo, trying to take over the world."
That just was yesterday.
10 quarantine points if you get the reference.
I haven't watched that show in years. Pinky and the Brain.
Alrighty, we just had the questions posted here. Let's move on to a topic real quick for the moment. I think the way it's listed is whitelisting member-hosted run game server. We don't have official CC game servers anymore, but we do have some trusted members that are running some, and they're independently managed and all that. What are we asking in this question exactly? I know I think that the 2-week ban when you exit the community should still apply to those, but what's the other question we have about that? Like, do we need a whitelist like listed? Is that what you're asking? So people can go, like people in a certain role can say, well, do you guys have a server, and it'll tell them where it is, or what's the question?
No, that was Kess posted that after I queried council on making a list of community run or officially recognized CC servers that were not necessarily hosted by CC, but were recognized and allowed. You see what I'm saying? To be like
Oh, so they could be promoted or whatever.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Similar
I
to the
think
nod.
it's a good idea because some of you already know that I've been in the background running all kinds of different stuff for different people, and a lot of you continuously end up on some server or whatever that I've had a hand in, and none of them have ever actually been officially CC recognized. And I posited the idea that I would start running CC official servers, either that or at least having some form of having CC recognize them as safe zones or legit spots. Not necessarily to promote or whatever, but I mean, if it comes to that, yeah.
I'm for it. Anybody else have thoughts on this?
I think it's a fantastic idea.
Nick, the nod is a role that you are given to promote your Twitch chat or Twitch stream, so that you can post Twitch links.
If you post Twitch links without the nod, Fishsticks eradicates them. So there's no self-promotion of Twitch on here unless you have been given that role. We had a serious issue with that for a while, and that's why we had it. But we've gone through periods of adjustment like that. Way back in the old days of CC, when many of you were very young, we didn't allow MySpace links for the same reason. Those were the days. What's the serious elephant in the room, Ben?
I hope y'all can hear me over the wind.
Sort of.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're really far away from your microphone. That's it.
Well, I am kind of far away from my microphone.
For the most part, it's surprisingly clear. And oddly, there's no typing sound overriding your voice.
I am about 60 miles away from that.
Our ears, thank you. Alrighty, I'm waiting for Ben and Roger and AJ to quit typing here. So let me rephrase that. I didn't mean quit typing. I meant be done typing. That sounded neat. Quit typing!
I am happy to fill in on the keyboard front if necessary.
I can vouch for that.
Thank you for bringing that up, Ben. I don't know if we had that when we first came up with the nod. Do you have any thoughts, Sky, on what Ben said?
This touches on something that Discord innately provides. Like anytime that somebody's running OBS, blah, 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 or some other streaming tool, Discord automatically detects that they're streaming something and switches into that mode and changes their status over to their what Discord calls rich status, rich embed.
Rich presence, yeah.
Yeah. And it gives you a link to go and open the browser to watch that stream. The nod was developed in order to stop people from actively posting promotional links in the chat. Most people don't go out of the way to go and find people that are streaming in a server. But that's definitely something I need to look into. I'm not very well versed on that at the moment.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So Ben, I understand that it's kind of on people if they see that you're streaming and they click on the link and they find CC inappropriate stuff. No offense to them, but they specifically clicked on your name. Whereas when a person is sharing a Twitch link, that's them literally promoting that Twitch link. They're saying, please come and be one of my viewers. They're specifically asking for it. And that's what the nod was designed to stop, was people who just... We had people who would go through the process of coming onto our server and getting known on our server just so they could post their links and build their community. And while there's nothing wrong with that, that's not what we're here for.
I want to circle back just a little bit, and then we can come back if you guys don't mind. Just so we can get it down on record.
Somebody who's running a server.
Yeah. A server that is recognized or approved, so to speak. Someone like Sky, for example.
I've been running servers in the background of this community for the last 2 years.
So then you would get the role, or you'd be put on the list. I mean, assuming you're a good person.
The problem is that none of the servers were ever like CC managed per se. They were always off of my own background network.
Yeah.
That is private. I don't allow anybody except for specific people back there. And the only server that I've ever bothered to actually allow promotion for CC for was the ARC server that Nils runs. Technically, he doesn't run it, but for this case, he runs it.
So it could be a role, or it could be a list of servers, then not the people who run it.
It's a list of, for what we're discussing at this very moment, it is a list of servers that CC considers to be safe, like game server locations. It's not necessarily like, this is not official CC content because we don't have any of that yet. It's literally like, hey, Sky's running this. This is a CC clean spot, yada yada. Here's the information. And it would be managed as such. So
yeah. So maybe having a list rather than a role.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a list.
Yeah. I just didn't know what to call it.
Well, I think we've arrived at, yes, that's something that we need to do.
Okay.
We've been here for 1 hour and 20 minutes. What's next on the docket?
I was definitely about to go there. Any other open meeting business that I'm unaware of at this moment? Anything not on the docket anybody wants to bring up right now? Speak now and forever hold your peace.
You hush your face or I'll come and find you.
Silver's bringing up a good point. Our docket currently says like the 8th of February, dude. Fix it.
Somebody didn't clear it after the last meeting. I blame you.
Not my job. Wait, I never say that. There's a clear command? Is what I should have said.
There is a clear command. Don't do it now, or else I'm going to ban you.
But would the date it was added not matter? I think that's what Bob was talking
He's
about.
pointing out that was added like before 2 meetings ago.
No, he's saying that notice that the docket dates are incorrect. This one should read 3-1, but it reads 2-1 or 2/21.
Yeah, he added that last night, Sky. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
So the
Where'd it go?
docket is putting on the
Somebody pull it
wrong.
back up. Someone please pull up the docket.
I don't know that command. Sorry.
It's straight up exclamation point docket. Don't type it
There you
again.
go. There you go.
Okay, that is not Fishdix's fault. That is something entirely different that I need to fix.
Honestly, AJ, I think we should probably save that for the discussion then.
Yeah, that's much too volatile.
All right, the last meeting agenda topic that's going to be for the open meeting tonight would be Dr. Cecil has asked chicken nuggets, yes or no?
Looks like Cecil's note.
I would love to be able to eat a chicken nugget.
The yeses have it. We're done.
All right, cool beans.
No, for real though. Thank everybody for coming out. If you have anything you want to add to our next meeting, that's what the docket command is for. I hate if we're cutting anything off, or if you had something you wanted to bring up that we're cutting you off. But we have run kind of long tonight.
All right, I'm going to clear the docket. So if anybody needs to see it really quick, should probably pull it up.
Yeah, we have a couple of closed meeting things in there.
I have it copy pasted. I can send it to somebody.
Oh,